Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Please like and subscribe. Look, if you don't subscribe, you support the Blues. There, I said it. Go on, like and subscribe if you support the mighty Villa. A few things just to talk about. Firstly, RIP to Ugo Ehiogu, the great Ugo Ehiogu. It would have been his 51st birthday today. The late, great Ugo. He was a fantastic player, deeply missed. He passed away in 2017. Villa paid tribute today to him today, acknowledging that it would have been his birthday. And he's a player who I have extremely fond memories of. You know, all those players I remember in the 90s when I was a kid growing up, Villa players seemed like real life superheroes. And Ugo Ehiogu certainly was that. He was a fantastic, super defender and deeply missed. RIP to the late, great Ugo. It's also Professor Unai's birthday. Happy birthday to Professor Unai. I don't think he's sitting around doing anything other than watching the back catalogue of Nottingham Forest games going back an entire year. On his birthday list, he was probably writing something like, please can I have Nottingham Forest away at Bournemouth last season? Can I particularly get the slow motion highlights of a chance they missed in the 30th minute? Maybe a home draw with Luton Town from 2 weeks ago. And then underneath that, perhaps maybe a PlayStation 5, which he won't use anyway because, he's so busy preparing for Villa games. So that, of course, happy birthday to Professor Unai. Going to get to a big thing on Unai Emery in a minute. Also, press conference today, Emery said that there's a lot of beeping going on out there. Aggressive Blues fans are just really angry about life, just driving in the car, sat still in the light, thinking of Wayne Rooney. Oh, bloody hell. Why did they hire Wayne Rooney? God's sake. I'm just assuming it's Blues fans. Not that I live anywhere near the Blues ground, but anyway, there we go again. Bloody Wayne Rooney. And aside from that, Emery mentioned at the press conference today that Alex Moreno is on his way back. Could be in contention this weekend, though that's somewhat unlikely. We did see the pictures of him running around in training this week, which was great to see. Should be in contention for a game, this game or the next one, just before the next international break. Bloody international breaks. Just stop. No one wants this. Stop. But the thing with Moreno, of course, is that I do think as well as Luca Dean has played for Villa this season, I do think we still miss the dynamic of Moreno. And I cannot wait to see him and what he's able to offer Villa when he beats a man, pushes forward to the byline, pulls it back, and maybe the soon-to-be returning Jacob Ramsey's there to finish, or maybe that's how Zaniolo gets his first goal. Jacob Ramsey as well, not likely to be back before the international break, but I think we knew that all along anyway. I'm not really expecting him back until maybe December. Anyway, that's some of the latest updates, but big article today. Aston Villa fans not happy, and it all plays in to what I said the other day, to what I have been repeating ad nauseum forever and ever. Jamie Carragher, a pundit who I like on Sky, I actually enjoy watching him and Gary Neville, particularly on Monday Night Football. I think it's a brilliant show. Carragher's written an article that seems to have, caught the attention. Like I said the other day, I joked a couple of weeks ago in a WhatsApp group that I gave it at least within a month before Man United had another miserable loss, or Chelsea had a beeping horns. Those Blues fans, Wayne Booney, all the booing they're giving him. Or Chelsea had another loss, that we'd hear Manchester United's board and Chelsea's board are very impressed with the job that Professor Unai Emery has done, and they'll say Professor, of course, as well. What he's done at Aston Villa. and are tempted to make an approach. I joked about it because I thought there was such a grim inevitability to the media generally linking him. Look, Jamie Carragher's article today is largely in praise of the job that Unai Emery has done at Aston Villa. Great. But it starts off with the following paragraphs. Aston Villa should cherish Unai Emery while they can. It's a matter of time before an established Champions League club makes him an offer he can't refuse, as Marlon Brando would say in The Godfather. Sorry to put a dampener on Villa fans' upbeat mood after a brilliant start to this season, but this is the reality of the sport. Owners and sporting directors can see the quality and impact of Emery's work at Villa Park, and he will be on their wanted lists. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. He will be on wanted lists for sure. But I don't know a single Villa fan who isn't enjoying this or appreciating it while it lasts. And also, I think the main thing to do, rather than accentuate, some of the frustrations that we feel as Villa fans being looked down on a lot of the time, what I would say is that we should just enjoy what we're having, enjoy it and see where it goes, because who knows where it goes. And quite frankly, I think it's going in a very, very positive direction and potentially to a height that Villa have not reached in a very, very long time. I say all this and then we'll go and lose 3-0 at Nottingham Forest. Hopefully not. More on that in a sec. But I'm going to say this again because I feel like it's worth repeating over and over again. There is a tendency in punditry generally, and I say this as someone who works in the media, has worked at various sports broadcasters, right? I can't help but feel there is a slight tendency, and I might just be saying this as a Villa fan, for pundits at times to look at Aston Villa as a club who used to be good, used to be capable of winning all the top things, but in the end, it's just Villa. And, they're not going to be the Champions League team. That's more for the Liverpools of the world. That's more for the Manchester Uniteds of the world. Even though Manchester United have been stinking up the joint for the last 10 years with an absolutely abysmal ownership, and now have Jim Ratcliffe coming in with potentially Dave Brailsford to have a backroom staff where you've got the Glazers in charge, you've got Ratcliffe there. Who the hell knows how the hell this is going to work? To me, it looks like it's just going to be a confusing mess. And I wouldn't say that what Ratcliffe and Ineos have done at Nice in France has exactly pulled up trees anyway. So I'm not exactly sure what it is really about Manchester United that looks so appealing, other than their reputation, other than the fact that commercially they make such incredible amounts of money, obviously. So there is more of a capacity for them to compete in the Champions League. They have more advantages as of this moment than Aston Villa do. But I think this narrative that's obviously emerging, and it always emerges whenever Villa have anyone good. Jack Grealish a couple of years ago. It was Dwight York back in the day. It's Gareth Barry, James Milner. It's Ashley Young. There's always a narrative that they're better than Villa, right? It's an uncharted territory for us as fans, particularly fans who didn't experience the Ron Saunders era like myself, to have a manager where you would think that could be somebody that other clubs might want to come in for. Because I can't think of a single manager I've ever seen at Villa where I would think, realistically, Bayern Munich might actually want this guy. I don't think Bayern Munich wanted Remy Gard, personally. I don't think Bayern Munich would have gone for Dean Smith, as much as I love Sir Dean. And I sure as hell don't think Bayern would go for Steven Gerrard. I don't think they're looking at his work in Saudi Arabia and thinking, yeah, we'll bring him in to replace Tuchel. But do I think they'd look at Unai Emery? Yes, 100%. And I think Carragher in his article obviously acknowledges all that and does credit Villa for building a stable backroom environment for him. But the point is, like, there has to come a point sometimes when you've got this kind of established big six at the moment, and Newcastle, with the state backing they have with Saudi Arabia, are obviously going to upset that apple cart and already have. But Villa are a team who now, for the first time since the O'Neill era, have the potential to truly break through. And again, Carragher does acknowledge that in his article. But I think the problem is with starting this article, the way it was voiced, is it's the same thing again. It's like Villa fans can't have too much of a good thing. And sooner or later, they're just going to end up back down where they belong. With the Evertons of the world, essentially. Tottenham used to be Aston Villa and Everton during the Premier League era, right? From 1992 to the year 2010, 2011, Tottenham, Villa and Everton generally occupied exactly the same roles in the Premier League. They were a team that could one season maybe look like they were going to break through, but in the end, back down they go. And all the best players are going to end up going to Alex Ferguson at Man United, right? But Tottenham made the breakthrough. And for years, people used to laugh at Tottenham, like a team that just couldn't get it done, a team that didn't belong at the top, a team that always lost to Arsenal, always lost to Chelsea, 3-point lane, they used to call it. But then they made the breakthrough. And then they were regularly in the Champions League. And on the back of that, 10 years of competing at a higher standard and establishing themselves, they now have a stadium that commercially is producing so much money all the time that they're probably able to sustain that for quite a long period of time. Aston Villa can do that. Stadium-wise, and the fact we're not in London, that gives itself an advantage. We're obviously going to have difficulty competing with that side of things until we rebuild the North Stand, Villa Live, or the new microbreweries come in, and the new train station. Obviously, those things need to change. And there needs to be upgraded concourses. Commercially, Villa needs to catch up. We get that. But on the pitch, why can't Villa do what Tottenham did? Why do we have to lose Unai Emery? It's why? I don't think we do. Why does Unai Emery have to go to Manchester United now, or to Bayern Munich, or to Chelsea, or to whoever? Because what happens this season, if Aston Villa make the Champions League and Man United and Chelsea don't, it could happen. Obviously, that would draw attention from, I think Xabi Alonso is going to Real Madrid. I think that's probably a given, the way Bayer Leverkusen are playing. Barcelona, I don't know, someone like that. But no, I just think that there has to come a point where Villa look at what Tottenham did and think that's what we have to do. Look at what Atletico Madrid did, a team, again, laughed at for years, didn't beat Real Madrid this century until the year 2011. When Diego Simeone came into Atletico Madrid and raised them to a level they had not reached in 30 years, do you think people were writing articles going, enjoy it, Atletico fans, because Diego Simeone is going to go to Chelsea soon? He didn't leave, because Atletico Madrid clearly produced the background for him to feel as comfortable as possible and gave him the kind of influence to build the club in his own image in a way that he wouldn't have got anywhere else. And Aston Villa basically have given Unai Emery that. And Unai Emery's greatest successes have tended to come Valencia, Villarreal, Sevilla, now potentially Aston Villa. I actually think he did a better job at PSG than is given credit for. And I think he actually did okay at Arsenal, given the fact he walked into an incredibly toxic and difficult environment that only in the last year have they recovered from. Genuinely, I think it was a losing job for anybody, and he got them to a Europa League final and got them fifth in the Premier League a year after losing a talismanic manager who'd been there for 20 years or so, who the season before got them to sixth. So Emery actually improved on it. It wasn't that bad a job, given the fact that back behind the scenes things were a complete mess, and it was a dressing room that, by all accounts, was a pretty toxic. So I think as Villa fans, we are kind of bored of listening to this idea that Villa, count your blessings, Villa fans, because this won't last. Liverpool were garbage in the 90s. They were absolutely rubbish, having been great for 20 years. Did Liverpool have a God-given right to be back in the Champions League? No. They could have sunk down. Leeds, they were competing at the top for a long time. They did sink down, fell away. Look at them now. 20 years of struggling. There's no God-given right for any team to be up at the top. And yes, there are commercial advantages that some clubs have right now, but that's not to say that Aston Villa can't have the same advantages in the next 5 or so years. And perhaps Unai Emery sees Aston Villa as a club like Sevilla, where he was at for 3 years, a club like Valencia, he was at there for 3 years, I think. Villarreal, he was there for 2.5 years, I believe. He can look at Aston Villa and think that's, again, another 3-year project. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that he wouldn't find it, attractive to go to somewhere like United or a Bayern Munich. And, I'm sure he would back himself to be somebody who could potentially turn things around. But Aston Villa have done everything they can to build an environment where he can be at his most successful. And I think we should enjoy this for what it's worth. And I do not think it's going to end anytime soon, hopefully. And anyway, the narrative will change if we lose to Forest and draw with Fulham. Suddenly it's, back to Unai Emery's not elite. Football's is a funny old game, and in that way changes by the week. The currents change. But look, Unai Emery will, of course, attract attention because he's doing a fantastic job at Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa is the perfect club for him. And should we get Champions League this season, please God, 5 places. Who knows? It's possible. There's something to build on there, isn't there? Changes the dynamic and changes what Aston Villa are capable of, and maybe even the type of player we're capable of attracting in the next few years. There is not a set order. There doesn't have to be a set order. And Aston Villa can break that set order. That's what I think. And so, yes, Atletico Madrid did it. Tottenham did it. Why can't Aston Villa do it? And that's it. So I'm not having a go at Carragher or anything. I'm just think the tone of the opening paragraph certainly came across in a way that was like, little Villa should know their place. And it's a thing that I think we're just fed up of hearing as Villa fans, because actually it doesn't have to be that way. And maybe it won't be for much longer. What do you think? You tell me. Nottingham Forest next. Let me just run through Nottingham Forest's home form for you. I said it the other day. I've watched them twice this week. I went to the Arsenal game where they lost 2-1. I thought they were pretty poor in the first half, but they spent the entire half with basically 6 at the back trying to hold off Arsenal. They were 2-0 down, but the second half they scored a great breakaway goal. Awoniyi Nalanga involved. Awoniyi, dangerous player if he's back. He has been injured recently, but if he's up front as a player to hold it up, maybe then if Villa have a fullback who's pushed forward a little bit and there's a gap, if he can hold it up, do a one-touch off to, say, Gibbs White or to an Nalanga, that could be a source of threat for Forest. The results at home so far this season, they haven't lost. They beat Sheffield United 2-1. They drew with Burnley 1-1, drew with Brentford 1-1, drew with Nottingham Forest 2-2. They're not impressive results against 3 of the promoted teams who are really struggling this season. Sheffield United, draw with Burnley, who had 10 men, and draw with Luton, having been 2-0 up and then conceding 2 in the last 5 minutes or so. So Forest there's a risk there where Forest perhaps are a club that play a bit better when they're able to sit back against a team who's going to be more ball dominant. Hence why they beat Chelsea 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. Another game I watched and I thought they were impressive. I thought they were very good at just keeping Chelsea out, basically keeping them at bay, though Chelsea hadn't really clicked at that point. But they were good on the break as they were against Arsenal. So whilst they've not been impressive at home with their results against teams who are perhaps, in the relegation, are in the relegation fight this season, given how they've started, is a team like Aston Villa turning up and been a bit more ball dominant, a team where Forest can perhaps be the team that has to kind of sit back a little and take it to Villa on the counter. I'm not sure they've been able to do that against some of the other opposition they've had. But overall, I'm confident wherever Villa go this season. Who would I pick? Would you go Concert right back or Cash at right back? Would you put Cash forward like we did against Burnley? On the right with Concert at the right back. With Elanga then maybe if he tries to go at Concert. But then Cash is quicker, so could Cash be better at keeping pace with Elanga? Interesting one. What do you think? You tell me. What should Villa pick this weekend? Don't underestimate Forest. Steve Cooper's a very canny manager. I remember last season when they played us at Villa Park, it was the away game for them, but they did crowd the centre of the pitch. I remember Douglas Luiz and John McGinn weren't really in the game that day. Can't remember if Boubacar Kamara played that. He might have been injured. But I do remember we didn't really see a lot of the central players for Villa. Villa obviously played very narrow, and Forest made it so... there were so many people in the centre that nothing went through the middle, really. And it was always going down the wide areas. If Forest try and do that again, could be relying on players like Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey, Cash, Moreno if he appears. Games like this is where Moreno will be effective, I think. And Moreno is particularly effective against teams that sit back as well, I think. He's good at beating a man. Dean's more of a player who likes to cross it in or recycle. Not great at beating a player. Moreno by far is our best fullback at the club at beating a man, getting to the byline, pulling it back or whipping it across the area. So that having that dynamic back is really, really helpful, particularly in home games against teams that try and sit back. Prediction for the score. I'm going to be confident and say Villa do it. I think Forest and the crowd will be very up for it. Be a loud crowd. Gibbs White, super player. Elanga's good. The one youth is back, provides a really good dynamic for them up front. Far better than what Mikel Antonio provided for West Ham. And I only say that because I think they're going to play quite similar roles. Back to goal strikers, hold it up, lay it off, try and run in behind. But if Forest can time their runs against the high line well, they'll get chances. But I'm going to say Villa do it. It's tight. I think it's a draw. But I think then in the last 10 minutes, Villa maybe find the breakthrough. And it's a 2-1 win to Villa is my prediction. Ollie Watkins and Leon Bailey. Why not? Anyway, let me know your prediction. Let me know what you think about everything. And as I said, about the article with Carragher, nothing at him at all. As I say, I really like him as a pundit and all that. I think he's him and Neville brilliant on Monday Night Football. But what I would say is that forget the outside noise as Villa fans. I think I myself have a tendency sometimes to focus too much on it. Let's just enjoy what the hell's going on here because it's going really well. And who knows where it can go. Right up to the top. Up the mighty Villa.